Hello to you and welcome back to the broadcast.
Hello, Cyrus, and thank you so much for this opportunity. It's great to be back. Great to be here with you.
Well, look, the pleasure is definitely all mine, LaDonna. And I want to say again, I'm so excited for you and all the great things you've been able to do. I just tacked through some of the things that you do. As I mentioned, best-selling author. We're going to be going through some of the books that are here because you've written books for different age groups. We're going to remind
Yeah.
our audience of that. But also, as I mentioned about your own show as well, what has this experience been like for you? Talking about gratitude, LaDonna, what has it been like for you to kind of reflect on all you've been able to do and how your faith really has proven faithful for you?
Well, that's a great question. And Cyrus, I want to let you know that the inspiration behind that amazing new book that I have was actually I had to in a time period in my life when I wasn't actually writing, I was
Mhm.
asking the Lord about, things that helped me to make it through my day. And so I
Mhm.
started to focus on the good things that were happening, the good things that were flowing into me. And so I got my own journal and I started to write every day. And so
Mhm.
every day there would be a title that would come, there would be something that I would come and then I would start to write those things. And so as I began to focus on those positive moments, being happy and excited and having showing gratitude for all that was flowing to me and the blessings that were coming, then it's just like the pages came, the dates came, the more blessings came. And so I want each and every person that picks up that book, or just to know in their life that the more you focus on the good things and the more you focus on the positive things, those things will build. And so it's very important to me because every day I had something to write about, whether it was something small, and then
Mhm.
some days it was something that was large. And so
Mhm.
just being able to show that gratitude for that moment, I think that it increased every day.
Yeah. And I think you said something I love, LaDonna, and that is something we don't always think about because we take so much for granted, unfortunately,
Mhm.
right? Until we can't do something. Like we take for
Right.
granted walking until we can't walk,
Exactly.
or seeing, for those of us who need assistance like myself, it's so easy to take those things for granted. Did you find that as you were unlocking greatness through gratitude, that made you more appreciative for those things you mentioned, those little things that sometimes we can take for granted?
Yes, because some of those days, um, because I woke up with on my hands and I could do things with my all of my limbs. Those were
Mhm.
some of the things that I was excited about. And then those things, just because I was breathing, I was able to assist myself, or I found things that I didn't necessarily have to have something with me to be excited about. And so
Mhm.
those things help me to be grateful and humble for being able to have the breath of life, because if I'm not breathing, then that means I'm not here. That means I'm not able
Yeah.
to do the next thing that God wants me to do. And so
Yeah.
as I began to focus on those things, when random acts of kindness was shown to me by someone randomly a day, or when someone called and say, hey, we have an opportunity, we want you to be here or come here or do this, those small days made me so much more appreciative of the blessings that, as I began to look forward and expect, they would come.
And I want our audience to know. I mean, LaDonna and I've known each other for quite some time, and I've been able to
Yes.
watch her journey. She's been able to watch mine, and I love the fact that you are able to get your flowers now, LaDonna, because they're so well deserved. I mean,
Thank you
the
so
awards you've
much.
been able to get, the recognition for the work that you're doing, and also I think the fact that the difference you're making, which I think is probably the most important for you. Talk to us about that. What has it been like for you to know that you have been created to make a difference? Because that seems like to me the big thing when I think about you is that you are walking in that calling. What has it been like for you to embrace that calling and to walk in it?
Wow. So it's been an amazing journey. It has been an amazing journey. And I want to tell you, Cyrus, what made it so real for me, like this year, was when I was on the word network. Because in
Mhm.
the back of my mind, when I was sitting there in the studio getting ready to talk about my books and the ministry of my life and all that God has done for me, the Lord kept saying to me, you were made for this. Like
Mm.
you were purposed for this. And that is what held me from a 14-year-old hearing him say, I want you to I'm going to heal you. The words you write for me are going to help to heal others. that is what has carried me all of my life, to know that I am creating that impact, that I
Mm.
want to do for others what God did for me, to encourage, to empower, to impact, to help them to see the greatness on the inside of them, even when they feel like they can't notice it. And so for me, it's been a wonderful journey. There has been ups and downs, but I'm glad that I stayed faithful. I'm glad that I continued to put one foot in front of the others and just trust what the Lord told me a long time ago. And so that's where I get my perspective of understanding that I was made for this, understanding that even though He said I would touch nations, my nation may be that young girl that's in front of me. It may
Yeah.
be that woman who needs that encouragement. And so I'm glad that I'm able to write these books. And then, even in my presence and speaking, that I'm able to say something that can help change the trajectory of someone else's life.
But no, you just mentioned young people. That's one of the things you've been able to do. One of the books you wrote, I'm going to highlight it for those joining us on the Amazon side. We appreciate you guys being with us. If you have any questions for LaDonna Marie, make sure you guys do put them in the comments. We'll be glad to be able to answer those. I also want to recognize tuning in. I see you guys over there on YouTube as well. Thank you so much for being on with us. And also Facebook. Appreciate you guys being with us too. If you guys are just coming in, we're speaking with LaDonna Marie today. She's a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and also the host of her own show. We're going to talk to her a little bit later. But the book she was just talking to us about is this one right here. You guys see, Unlocking Greatness, a gratitude journal. This is the last book that I got of hers. Definitely, it's the first one in the carousel for those joining us on the Amazon side. Definitely feel free to get this one as well as the other books. But you wrote a book called Things I Wish I Knew, LaDonna. I want to talk about that because you've been very transparent about your own journey, right? Another book that's in the carousel here, Until Tomorrow Comes. That's another going. You see there it is, and also the
Yes.
journey. Do you feel like part of the reason why you've been able to connect so well with people, LaDonna, is because you have been willing to say, this is where I come from, this is what I've gone through, and this is where I am now.
I definitely think that that's the very reason, because the Lord, from the very beginning, and many of you who've been following me over these years know that I always share my story of I attempted to commit suicide at the age of 14 because I felt very misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment in my life, He helped me to know that I was created the way He designed me to be, no matter what anyone else said, that I was created. And so for me, Cyrus, doing the books, Things I Wish I Knew, and showing them a part of my life and then pouring into them what He poured into me, that authenticity is what has helped me to connect. Because so many times people will tell you you can make it, but you don't know what they made it from. You
Yeah.
don't know that they, where they've been. And I believe that sharing your story and your testimony will let those people know that you're not alone. And that's
Yeah.
what I've always wanted them to know, that, hey, I may not have been all the places that you've been, but I've had some of those low moments, but I stayed faithful. I kept working, and this is where I am now. And you can do the same, because the Lord has no respect of a person. And so what He
Mm.
does for me, He can do the same for you.
Yeah. I want to recognize Talisha. I hope I'm saying your name correctly on the Amazon Live side. Thank you so much for being on with us. And also, Tamika is joining us on the Facebook side. She says hello to you, LaDonna. Manswell is also joining us on Facebook. He says, Test is a testimony. That is so true, Manswell. And
Yes.
so, LaDonna, this is why, again, your transparency is always, what has been one of the things that I respect about you, because I feel like for myself, I tell people all the time that, look, if I can do something, I know other people can do it. You and I are both, we were just talking before we went on here, both of us, call Mississippi home. But
Yes.
you have definitely been given a gift that is so much bigger than state lines. And that's one thing that I wrestled with for a long time, because people will, whether they mean to or not, will put you in a box. And
Yes.
sometimes I've been there. I put myself in a box. When did you realize that what you've been given, you talk about God is no respect of persons, but when did you realize that a state line meant nothing to Him, that you had something bigger than just one state?
I realized that as I continued to, well, maybe I want to say I recognized the vision was bigger than where I was. This is when I did Until Tomorrow Comes,
Mm-hmm.
and this was the second book that I did. And I was saying to the Lord, he kept telling me, it's going to go global, it's going to be international. And even though I heard him within myself, around me, many people was like, it's not going to, it's not going to make it there, it's not going to do that. But I had to say, focus on what he said. And as he began to download that book to me, and I wrote it exactly the way he wanted me to, and I had placed it in a Paris Book Festival like competition,
Mhm.
and then I won honorable mention for Paris. And at that moment, I said, Lord, I hear you and I understand, because you did not allow me to stay at a status quo where I didn't believe what you had given me could go out to the masses, that it could go out to different places, that I trust you when you said that I would go to nations and that I was international, and I stayed the course. So when I followed suit, and after that first book went to Paris, then came London, then came New England, then came Australia, then I traveled to Kenya. And so there's been so many places, but all of it has been for his glory, because the books are what he asked me to do to help to heal others.
Love that. Love that. And I think too that goes for our audience. I hope they caught that, LaDonna. For one thing, being true to it, right? Because we live in a
Right.
world and in the industry that we're both in, it's so easy to be looking at someone else's path and say, I want to do things the way they do it, or I want to,
Mhm.
feel like I have to talk this way or look this way or whatever. But to realize that what we've been given is for us to share, in
Yeah.
the way that God has been able to position us. I want to ask you something, because as you were just talking, we read in script, especially in scripture, about fear of man. One thing though I have learned, is the fear of success. That has been one of my biggest problems, because when something goes well, there is that feeling of, oh wow. But then for me, sometimes we've done this. Oh crap! Can I do that? Can I do that again? You know? So I want
Yeah.
to ask you: have you had some old crap moments where something happens and you're like, "Oh, this is great," but is this going to be expected every time I do something? Have you had moments like that?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've had those moments. And, I like that you talk about it, because those are some of the things that I've been sharing a little bit more lately.
Mhm.
Because, as much as I do for the Lord, in the beginning, I did have a fear of the success of things. Because if
Mhm.
you've been around and people minimize, or, they don't see you the way that God
Yeah.
sees you, they
Yeah.
don't, I was just talking about this the other day. They don't, when you shine your light, it's just like, they try to minimize it. And
Mhm.
I can't be anything other than who I've been created to be. And so I've been created to shine. He says, let your light
Mhm.
so shine before men that they will see your good works and give glory to your Father. And so that's what I've been created to do, with the gifts, talents, and abilities that He's given me. But I've had those moments, and I've had to pick myself back up and continue on the journey when
Yeah.
something didn't pan out the way that I felt, or maybe I, didn't get an opportunity that I felt like I desired and I wanted, but I
Right.
never let it deter me. I just said, if that door closed, then another one will open.